It's late, and if you're watching this right now, it's probably not because you're just curious. It's because something in your chest hasn't shut up for days or weeks. Maybe you've been telling people you're over it, even joked about it once or twice. But when the lights go off, when the room gets too quiet, that's when the truth leaks through the cracks. If this is you, you already know what I'm talking about. That moment you grab your phone for no reason, scroll through nothing, not because you expect her to text, but because a part of you still notices when she doesn't. Or the way your stomach tightens when someone brings her up casually, like it's nothing, like she didn't once know every tired, soft, scared part of you. Maybe this hits closer than you expected. Because somewhere deep down, you're not convinced she's actually done. You're just scared to admit it. Scared you'll sound delusional. Scared you'll be wrong again. You replay tiny details you pretend don't matter. How she looked back that last time. How her voice cracked on one sentence, just one, but you caught it. How she said she needed space, but didn't fully look you in the eyes when she said it. You remember the way her hand lingered half a second longer than it should have. The hesitation in her goodbye. The way she paused before walking away, like she was waiting for you to say something she didn't know how to ask for. But then you doubt yourself. You think maybe you imagined it. Maybe you're just desperate. Maybe you're holding on to ghosts because the alternative hurts too much. So you try to kill the thoughts, distract yourself, act unfazed, pretend her silence means closure. Pretend you don't still feel that stupid pull in your chest when you hear a notification. And yet, here you are, at 3 a.m., watching a video titled, Yo, you she's doing yo, you or MSN, What does that tell you? You're not confused. You're not weak. You're not stuck. You're aware, painfully aware that something doesn't add up. Something in the way she left. Something in the way she hasn't fully disappeared. Something in the way your gut keeps whispering the one thing your mind keeps shutting down. Maybe you're afraid to look too closely, because what if you're right? What if you're wrong? What if the truth is messier than either option? If this is you, if you feel that tight, uncomfortable honesty pressing against your ribs right now, ask yourself one thing. Why does a part of you still feel like her story with you isn't finished? And more importantly, what is that part trying to tell you? Listen, slow down for a second, take a breath. I'm not here to hype you up or feed you some fantasy. I'm talking to you the way an older brother would, steady, grounded, without trying to impress you, because this whole idea of, she's done with me, that's it, end of story. Most men get that wrong. They react too fast, too emotional, too certain about things they don't actually understand. You ever notice how, right after she pulls away, your mind jumps to the worst version of the story? Like your brain starts painting everything in absolute black and white. She moved on. She doesn't care. It meant nothing. But real life doesn't work like that. People don't switch feelings off like a light. Connections don't evaporate just because someone got overwhelmed or confused. Here's the part most guys miss. Women don't end it the moment they say they're done. They end it long after, in the quiet, in the reality, in the space where they're forced to live with the choice they made. And that space is messy, more confusing for her than you think. You ever sit on the edge of your bed, shoes still on, keys still in your hand, just stuck, not sad, not angry, just caught between what you thought you should feel and what you actually feel. She goes through that too. She's just better at hiding it. There's this myth men cling to, that if she's distant, it's over, period. But distance doesn't equal closure. Silence doesn't equal certainty. And here's something you might not want to hear but need to. If she was truly done, she wouldn't still be showing signs that bother you. You wouldn't still feel that tug in your chest. You wouldn't still catch that flicker in her tone when she talks to mutual friends. You can't fake that kind of residue. It stays when something is unresolved. Let me tell you something simple, something older men learn the hard way. As principle I1, a woman's first reaction isn't her final decision. Dav F. Her first reaction is usually emotional, immediate, protective. It's after the dust settles, after the ego cools, after the noise fades that her real feelings start knocking again. Most men panic before that moment arrives. They chase, they question, they try to fix something that actually needed space to breathe. Picture this, you're sitting in a car after an argument. She says she's done. You look out the window. Your reflection looks a little older than you expected. And for a second, you want to beg, to explain, to hold her wrist so she doesn't walk out. But something tells you not to. Something quiet, something steady. That moment, that controlled silence, that's where the truth sits. Not in the argument, not in the emotion, but in the aftermath. Another thing men misunderstand, when she steps away, she's not always leaving you. Sometimes she's leaving the version of herself she became around you. Sometimes she's leaving the tension. Sometimes she's leaving because she doesn't know how else to get your attention without breaking something. Does that make it right? No, but it makes it human. Principle A2E, a man's strength isn't in fixing everything, it's in holding his ground when everything feels uncertain. S, not stubborn, not cold, just present, steady, unrushed. Most guys don't realize this, but women notice that steadiness long after the breakup. She might not say it, she might not show it, but she feels it. That's the biggest sign you're missing, not her posts, not her silence, not her pretending she's fine. It's the fact that something in the way she left still feels unfinished, and the reason it feels unfinished is because it is. But here's the question that matters, the one only you can answer. If you sense she's not really done, are you reacting from fear or responding from strength? It starts with a door closing, not slammed, just that soft, polite kind of close that somehow hurts more. Like she didn't want to make noise, didn't want to disturb anything, didn't want to leave a trace. You stand there in the half dark of your room, fan spinning slow, air a little too warm, silence settling heavy on your shoulders. And you tell yourself, okay, maybe that's it. But the words don't stick. They fall apart before you even finish thinking them. You walk to the sink, turn on the tap. Cold water hits your hands and wakes up every part of you were trying to numb. You splash your face, expecting it to reset something. It doesn't. The mirror fogs just a little from the warm air behind you, and for a second, you swear you can hear her laugh. That little breath, and she used to do before the real laugh came out. You shake your head, hard, like you're trying to knock loose a memory that's gripping too tight. You sit on the edge of your bed, phone beside you, screen lighting up the ceiling more than your face. You're not checking it, but you're noticing it, noticing that you're noticing it. And that's when the thought hits you, if she was truly done, why does the room still feel like she just left it? You run a hand through your hair, exhale, a long, tired one that comes out heavier than you meant. A notification pops, stupid, meaningless. But your chest reacts before your brain can tell it not to. You let the phone stay face down. You're not proud of the hope. You're not proud of the disappointment either. You lean back, staring at the ceiling. A tiny crack in the paint pulls your eyes upward. You remember she once teased you about it, said it looked like a map, and joked that it pointed to the version of you who didn't take everything so seriously. You laughed then. You're not laughing now. You close your eyes, and there she is, not standing in front of you, not some perfect memory, just tiny flashes, like the smell of her shampoo when she hugged you from behind, or the way her fingers tapped your arm when she was thinking, or that moment, God, that moment, when she hesitated too long before letting go of your hand the last time. You told yourself it meant nothing, but it didn't feel like nothing. You sit up again as if the memory grabbed your shirt and pulled you forward. You don't know what you're looking for. You're not even sure you're supposed to be looking. The room feels too small, so you step outside. Night air hits your face, cool, a little sharp. Streetlights hum quietly. A dog barks somewhere in the distance. The world feels wide and muted at the same time. You take a few steps down the street, hands in pockets, trying to walk something off, but you don't know what. A car passes slowly, Headlights brush over you, then fade. You feel ridiculous for even hoping it might be her. You sit on the curb, rest your elbows on your knees. Let your thoughts spill out without trying to control them. What if she didn't leave because she wanted to? What if she left because she didn't know how to stay? What if this ending isn't the ending you think it is, just the messy part before the clarity? You replay her last words, not the sharp ones, not the ones thrown in heat, the quiet ones at the end, the kind that sound like honesty slipping through cracks in her armor. And suddenly, you realize something that stops you in your tracks. Her silence never felt final. It felt scared, conflicted, like someone trying to convince herself of a decision she isn't convinced of. You rub your palms together, slow, grounded, trying to make sense of the noise inside you. You look up the street like she might suddenly appear. You know she won't. But the thought still hits your chest. A breeze moves, soft, almost like fingers brushing your jaw. You close your eyes for a second, not to imagine her, but to admit something you've been dodging. If she were truly done, you wouldn't feel this unfinished edge slicing through everything she left behind. So here's the question pressing into your ribs, the one you can't outrun no matter how many times you tell yourself to move on. If this really was over, why does it still feel like the story hasn't breathed its last line yet? There's this belief a lot of men carry quietly, one they don't admit out loud because it sounds too simple, too foolish, too human. If she left, it must mean she doesn't care anymore. But that's not how people work. Care doesn't vanish on a schedule. Feelings don't obey clean exits. I remember telling myself that once, sitting on the floor of my own room, back against the wall, convincing myself that her silence was proof she'd moved on. But when I looked deeper, I realized something uncomfortable. She wasn't the one who'd gone numb. I was the one trying to feel nothing so I wouldn't break. Most men get this part wrong because they mistake distance for disinterest. Sometimes distance is just someone trying to breathe. Sometimes distance is someone trying not to fall apart in front of you. And sometimes distance is her waiting to see if you collapse or stay steady. You don't lose her. You lose your own presence. I didn't understand that until much later. Presence isn't texting more, calling more, proving more. Presence is the quiet steadiness that doesn't beg or chase or crumble. Presence is being rooted when everything around you feels unstable. Another belief men cling to, if she's not reaching out, the story's over. But think about it, Tay. How many times have you cared about someone deeply and still stayed silent? Not because you didn't feel anything, but because you felt too much. There was this moment once, simple, stupid, tiny. I walked past a cafe we used to sit in. The chairs were still there, same table by the window. For a second, I felt that sting in my chest and thought, God, I wonder if she still comes here. And the realization hit me. If a place could trigger that much emotion in me, how could I assume she felt nothing at all? Women don't forget the spaces you shared. They don't forget the small habits. They don't forget the version of themselves they were with you, even the parts they tried to hide. Silence is an erasure. Silence is reflection. Silence is processing. Silence is the pause before someone admits what they're really feeling. One more belief that wrecks men quietly. If she left, I must fix something to win her back. That belief right there. That's the one that steals your spine, makes you smaller, makes you anxious, makes you forget who you were before fear got involved. Vi, she didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself, Dias. Most men don't realize this. They think women leave because of what men lack. But often women leave because the man stops bringing the version of himself that made her feel safe, grounded, understood. You weren't wrong. You weren't unworthy. You just drifted, and she reacted to the drift. I've seen this too many times. A guy becomes a watered down version of himself, lost in worry, lost in overthinking, lost in trying to protect something instead of actually living. And when she pulls away, he panics even harder, thinking the panic will fix it. But panic has never built anything worth keeping. Here's a truth that feels like cold water on the face. Attention is cheap. Respect is priceless. Your attention tries to bring her back. Your respect for yourself, for your boundaries, for your value, creates the gravity she feels even when she swears she's done. Because the biggest sign she's not done isn't in what she says, it's in what she can't fully let go of. The unfinished energy, the tension, the questions that linger. You don't force that to come back. You don't chase it. You don't negotiate with it. You return to yourself slowly, quietly, like waking up after a long night. And somewhere in that steady return, you'll notice something shifting in the air around you. She's not nearly as done as you convinced yourself she was. The 1% headman doesn't flinch the way most men do. He feels the same ache, the same confusion, the same drop in his stomach when she pulls away. But he doesn't let that feeling drive the wheel. This is what he understands. A woman stepping back isn't the final chapter. It's usually the messy middle, the part where both people are reacting more than thinking. He knows emotions come first, clarity comes later, and he doesn't panic in the gap between the two. Most men sprint toward that gap with fear in their chest. They send long texts, over-explain, try to fix something that isn't ready to be fixed. They treat her silence like a fire alarm instead of what it usually is, a pause, a breath, a moment of overwhelm. But the 1% headman, he responds differently. This is how he leads, with presence, not pressure. If she pulls away, he doesn't chase the space she needs. He respects it, without making a scene, without closing his heart, without shutting down into coldness. He just stays rooted in himself, like a tree that doesn't move because the wind changed direction. He knows something most men never learn. A woman isn't judging him by what he says in the emotional storm. She's feeling who he becomes in it. There was this night, a real one, not a storybook moment, where his girl said, "I need time," and he felt his whole chest tighten. He wanted to argue, explain, hold on to her wrist so she wouldn't walk out. But instead, he stepped back. He said, "Okay, take the time you need." And he meant it. He walked to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, hands shaking just a little. Stayed with the discomfort instead of trying to eliminate it. That's strength, not the loud kind. The quiet, grown mankind. This is the part most men overlook. Inner steadiness isn't about being emotionless. It's about not letting the emotion turn you into someone you don't recognize. The 1% headman lets the feeling hit him, but he doesn't act from it. This is what he understands. Her silence doesn't define him. Her distance doesn't shrink him. Her confusion doesn't demand he abandon himself. He doesn't spiral into questions like, what if she's done? What if she never comes back? What if this is the last time we talk? Because he knows spinning those questions doesn't change reality, it just drains his power. Instead, he asks himself, who do I want to be while this is happening? Not for her, for himself. This is how he leads, with presence, not pressure. He keeps living his life, not pretending he's okay, actually taking steps to be okay. He hits the gym, not to distract himself, but to release the storm inside him. He handles his responsibilities. He straightens his posture. He keeps his tone calm when she reaches out with half answers and mixed signals. She texts something short, something vague. Most guys would reply instantly, dumping emotion into the message. But he lets the phone sit for a minute, not as a game, not as manipulation, but because he wants his response to come from clarity, not adrenaline, centeredness over chasing, every time. Another example, she posts something online, maybe a quote, maybe a picture, and his chest tightens. Most men would read into it, obsess, interpret. He doesn't. He reminds himself, her story is her story, mine is mine. And by doing that, he makes space for the energy to settle instead of escalating. This is what he understands. A breakup, a pause, a step back. None of these decide the fate of a connection. The energy both people bring afterward does. When she finally looks back, and she does, she doesn't see a man who crumbled when she left. She sees a man who stayed steady, a man who didn't chase, a man who didn't collapse, a man who held himself with quiet dignity even when it hurt. That steadiness, that grounded presence, that's the biggest sign men miss, because the moment he stops trying to control the outcome starts moving toward him. The 1% headman isn't lucky, He's just still, clear, patient. And that kind of presence, it always pulls the truth out of hiding. He's standing in the bathroom, leaning on the sink with both hands, the light buzzing faintly above him, water still on his face. Cold, sharp, almost grounding. Her last words echo in pieces, not whole sentences, just fragments. I just need, it's better if, maybe we should. He closes his eyes, and the memories hit in flickers, her laugh in the passenger seat, her head on his shoulder in that dim cafe, the way she used to trace circles on his arm without realizing it. Then the silence, the distance, the version of himself he became trying to keep her close. He straightens slowly, not dramatic, just tired of shrinking. A breath pulls into his lungs like it's the first full one he's taken in months. He wipes his face with the corner of a towel. Soft fabric, slight detergent smell, real, here, not memory. For a second, he whispers it, barely audible. I'm done breaking myself just to be enough. And then the weight drops, not anger, not bitterness, just truth landing hard in his chest. He looks at his own reflection, not for answers, for recognition, because in that quiet, uneven moment, he finally sees the man she couldn't finish. It hits you late, always late, when the room is too quiet, when your chest finally stops fighting itself, when her silence doesn't feel like rejection anymore, just the echo of something unfinished. You start to see the truth you kept dodging. She didn't walk away clean. She didn't close the book. She just stepped back, hoping you'd collapse, and you didn't. And that steadiness, that quiet, unshakable you, is the sign you kept missing, because the moment you stopped chasing her story, you stepped back into your own. And that's when she realized the ending wasn't hers to write.